I tell you, it's so wonderful to continually wake up to the goodness of God. And anytime that we come through something that we thought maybe we wouldn't make it, isn't it a great feeling to know how countable and dependable this loving presence, this loving law is? Yes, yes. So I love to say it's great to be alive. Let's say that.
It's great
to be alive. In fact, that's a spiritual necessity to have that feeling. And I think each time we prove to ourselves and rise above our doubts, we really know that, wow, this universe is countable, dependable, and filled with all kinds of possibility, and it's just waiting for us to say yes, yes to life. So this month we've been talking about and thinking about, I have a lot, this idea of forgiveness. And there's really three things that are so important. As our affirmation is, I learn to forgive by loving myself rather than judging, or loving others and rather than judging them. And why is it so important to forgive and to do it quickly and often? Because it keeps us in the present moment. And that's where the power is. And a lot of times we can't do it except by just saying, surrender, take over, divine grace, amazing grace, and help me to let go. And the other thing about forgiveness, besides keeping us in the present moment, is if we can ever look at everybody as either extending love or giving a call for love. And I know that a lot of times when I haven't been as minister-like or as acceptable, there was a part of me that was trying to feel secure or felt stressed. And so I was giving a call to love, for love in some way. And so if you can look at that way when other people are being less than wonderful in your life, that they're giving a call to love. And of course, a lot of times it isn't an easy thing to do, but as we surrender to grace and really make that choice that I want to be a healing presence here, I want to go to the highest. And sometimes we can't do it right at that time. We have to kind of later say to the person, I'm sorry, that wasn't the way I wanted to act. But the big thing is to really know that the more quickly we do that, this forgiveness is really the only way that we stay really healthy and really happy. Because any time that we're not forgiving quickly, we're like the person, I love that saying, that wants to stick on the position and be resentful. And it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, and yet we get all the ill effects of it. So at first, if you don't have a big, generous heart, do it just because it's not healthy for you to hold on to the grudges and everything. And so what I found about doubts, that doubts are really another form of judging. We're judging ourselves, or we're just thinking that that's not possible, and so you know how I love acronyms, and I came up with this one about doubts, that if you can look at every time that you're doubting, that really that somehow Spirit is calling us home, to make a U-turn, to really come home to the Father's house, or that house of our source of love and truth, and look at that we're divine, that the doubt, either we can choose to go up or we can choose to look down and kind of be derailed. But if you can look at doubts really as divinely opening up to the Spirit. Divinely opening up to the Spirit. I'm not going to doubt and get derailed. I'm going to go to a higher place than I've ever been before. And so in that sense, it's like, oh wow, something here is wanting to free me and get me out of an old way of looking at things. Because each time I know that I've come through an experience where I was doubting, and then something wonderful has happened, it was like, oh wow, my faith is stronger, and I really find it easier to not doubt. And I'm sure most of you can identify with that. In fact, kind of think of some of the times where you were really kind of shaking or doubting or didn't think it was going to work out, and then remember the solution when it really did work out wonderfully. So, think about, sometimes you don't feel like it's so divinely opening up. Maybe it's almost like doggedly opening up to the Spirit, or determinedly opening up to the Spirit. The first Sunday this month, we had a fun beach service on Labor Day weekend, and we had a forgiveness toolbox, and it had all those these wonderful things that we pick out. In fact, there's a handout out on the table, and there was one. It was a big rock, and that could be like for hurt and anger, and we have the choice where to throw it at the other person or choose to forgive or whatever. And then another one was a big ear to remember to listen. And then one of the ones that I really liked, that I thought was great, was a clapper, to give yourself applause for each time that you've gone to that higher place. And then there was a stuffed animal, that unconditional love. And the reason we have all these stuffed animals in the chairs is that we're loving them up. If you don't have one on your lap, maybe you could pick one up, because we're loving them up so that when the kids can take them to a hospital or homeless shelter for kids. And so, anyway, another one was a clown nose, to remember to not take ourselves so seriously. So that might be something that you could do, is make yourself up a little forgiveness box and then pull out the right thing. And that would be great to do with kids too, you know, because there's all these fun things. And so, what I know is that I've definitely spent some time in that place of, oh, I thought I made a mistake, or I shouldn't have done this, or if I'd only done better. Anyone else been in that place of judging yourself? Well, in February of 1999, I picked up one of my favorite books. You can tell I've read it quite a bit. By Emma Curtis Hopkins, Scientific Christian Mental Practice. And it's kind of like the Practitioner's Handbook. And each one of her books are written in 12 chapters, as far as that she calls them gates or evolution in consciousness, where we open up to the truth of us. And number 9 is called Righteous Judgment, to really judge ourselves and others as the beautiful light beings that we are, and not get stuck in the appearances. And the statement for that gate or evolution is, I do not accuse the world or myself of sin, all is well. And Emma at another place says that sin is only a mistaken idea of ourselves. And then once we make that mistaken idea, then we've lived out of it. And I keep hearing that other acronym that I've heard over the years is self-inflicted nonsense. Well, when we have told ourselves a lie about ourselves, that really is making our lives a lot worse, because we're not coming from our strength and our power and our greatness. So we always have that choice. Am I going to judge by appearances and find my worth? Or am I going to come from that place of strength and know that I am a God being, unlimited, and the world is filled with possibilities, and I'm not determined by what is on the outside. I'm determined by what I'm declaring right now. And so she went on to say, and this just so changed my life, and I share it with so many people that I counsel with and everything, and maybe it'll ring true for some of you who've been a little bit hard on yourself or thought you might have made a mistake. You have no idea how much of the inefficiency of humankind comes from thinking about the wrongdoing of others and of ourselves. Think of the time that we've wasted in that area. No, just come back. We're doing the best that we could. There's nothing more miserable than to feel that by some mistake in life you've not amounted to what you might have, and that your misfortunes all hinge on that mistake. Now, while a mistake seems to be so much, its right name is nothingness. God never made any mistakes in spirit. Wow. Wow. I know that when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh. I have to start telling the truth. And so in another place, she says, since spirit is your true nature, you are utterly incapable of making a mistake. So I'm going to put that in the affirmation. As spirit is my true nature, as spirit is my true nature, I am utterly incapable of making mistakes. I am utterly incapable of making mistakes. In spirit, you are God. Ignoring the shadow nature from its dark claims, speak now with truth from your spiritual nature, saying, I never made any mistakes. I never made any mistakes. Therefore, I never took the consequence of any mistake. Therefore, I never took the consequence of any mistake. I am free. I am free. You had better speak often and much from your spiritual nature. Its name is I am, or its name simply is I. Let that I tell its tale of goodness and peace over and over, and the old I, with its tales of woe, is never heard speaking or felt anymore at all. And so the more we come from that place of, I never made a mistake. In fact, if something really difficult happens in your life, and just say, it never happened. It never happened in spirit. And you will be amazed at what will transpire when you go right back to God and claim a blessing out of it and claim freedom and all of that. And that really gets you out of that second guessing or doubting yourself when you say, oh, I wish I'd done this better or whatever. No, put it into mind that no mistakes have been made, none are being made, and none can be made. Now I know that a lot of times, well, yes, look at it this way, mistakes. I know when I was making a little intro for the YouTube, I don't know how many times did I do it. Okay, I mean maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 takes before I could get it without flubbing over. So if you just look at it, it was a mistake, and a lot of times, I mean, Ellen knows that as your rehearsal, and what is it, take one, take two, so have a different idea, and I think that then you will stop doubting yourself so much, or just knowing, hey, that was needed for me to reach this point. And so one of the things that when any of you've had any challenges in your life, if you can just recall other times where you came out of it in a stronger place, then you won't have this kind of self-judgment of yourself. You'll know, hey, I'm having the courage to wake up. And everything that has happened this last year in the center, for me, I wouldn't have it be any different now, because it's brought me to this place of rock solidly depending on God and really knowing great good is happening and unfolding. And wow, knowing that is priceless, isn't it? And look at some of the things in your own life where that was true for you, that out of that experience you came home to yourself and knew that things were really for you. Life was for you and it could be trusted. So Ernest talks about this in the Science of Mind textbook, and he says, besides saying that, because when you come from a place that no mistakes are being made or none that can be made, then you look at everything as an opportunity to free yourself. And he said to declare that there is one supreme intelligence which governs, guides, and guards. Let's say that. There is one supreme intelligence which governs, guides, and guards. Tells me what to do, when to act, and how to act. Tells me what to do, when to act, and how to act. Well, if you are believing that, of course you're always going to be doing the highest and the best for you at that time. So I'm not saying it's easy to stay God-centered and in the highest, but we're here to exercise our spiritual muscles and be lights, because the more that we remember the truth, wherever we are, at work or wherever we go, we're radiating that love and that light.